If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.
And we're back. And we've got a packed panel tonight. We're in the green room right now while I just quickly go through the opening here. This video tonight is brought to you by Native Path. And as I mentioned a couple nights ago, they sent me a box of their branched chain amino acids, BCAA drinks. 5 weeks ago today, I started taking this. And I was a little skeptical. They said that they had some studies from the U.S. Army that essentially allowed them to come up with a formula that hydrates you better. And that may be the case. I'm not a chemist, but here's what I can tell you. Since I started drinking this, I know this is too much information, but I only go to the bathroom one time in the middle of the night instead of 4 times during the middle of the night. So their claims that it hydrates you better, pretty accurate, plus it tastes good. And that's always the litmus test for me. There's a link down below. You can get up to 44% off. You get free shipping and a free gift. And y'all have heard me mention this already, and I've got a video coming on the test that we did with Sawyer. But Mike Sterling will tell you he's spent a lot of time in the field, military, search and rescue, all that good stuff. And the consistency of the Sawyer is the big deal. Other ones, quality control is not quite as consistent, and therefore the performance is not quite so good. So let's bring everybody in for the panel tonight. Oh, S2, good to see you. I didn't realize you popped in.
Yep.
Yeah,
I was running a few minutes behind, screwing around with electronics.
No problem. I've had people tell me I'm going to be late for my own funeral, so I get it.
That would be true.
Right on. So I got my partner in crime, John Wheaton, with me tonight. We got Craig back from Stay Brewed Coffee, our undercover intel agent S2, our in-house Mad Bomber, Mike Sterling, and we got Jason Wilson back again from voteforamerica.org, because as we go through this episode, you'll get a grasp on why we keep saying, what was your new tagline there, Jason? Nobody
votes alone.
I love it. Man, I wish we could have pounded on that for the past few months. So let me see here. The only thing we've got to go through, Mike, because I've condensed everything at the beginning, is your conflicted question.
Well, that and my shout out to Nestor tonight. Nestor, this one's for you.
Right on.
Okay. Because Nestor and I drink beer together on the show. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Big shout out to all of our folks out there in the audience. Hey, here's the deal. If you haven't been with us for this before, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to read out the conflicted question of the day. This is a nice little litmus test for your, getting some reps between your ears. And then we're going to read it again at the end of the show. And we here on the panel are going to go ahead and answer it at that time, give our answers. But we want to hear from you in the audience. We want to hear what you've got to say. Write it up there. But first, what do we want everybody out there to do? Anybody?
Mash the like button.
Mash that like button. I don't care what platform you're on.
Like button.
Mash that like button. Okay, conflicted question. What do you think will happen to the world if Kamala Harris is elected president, and why?
So I got to confess that question from that conflicted deck actually said Hillary Clinton instead of Kamala. But I figured at this stage of the game, we would just update that deck to say,
Thank you. I'm clutching my pearls.
Yeah, no kidding. All right. So speaking of Kamala Harris, the first video that I'm going to share tonight off of X is Kamala and Tim Walsh telling us exactly what they stand for. With that being said, Jason did ask if this was AI or not. Everything I've read says it's not, but I did not have a chance to download it and drop it onto AIorNot.com. So it's possible it is, but even if it is, her father was a professor who taught Marxism and socialism, and all of her price gouging, price control stuff is straight out of the book of communism.
I'm going to get myself over this sign.
What the hell? Where'd you find that?
I found it during my extensive research today. So,
In the words of Ronald Reagan, I smell commies.
right. All right. So, Jason, I want to get your high level overview of just how bad it would be for somebody to vote for Kamala and Tim Walz, not just because of that video, but in general.
You would have to hate this country. I mean, you literally, your hatred of one man. I would say right now, of the people who are voting for her, 40% of them are voting against Trump. They're not voting against her. They've been so brainwashed by the mainstream media. And it honestly is, if you ask someone what's the main three reasons that you don't like Donald Trump, more than likely, all three of them are going to be something cooked up by the mainstream media in general. But if you look at their policies, what they've done over the last 4 years, what she stood for her entire career, you would have to hate this country to vote for her. I mean, that's pretty much that simple. I mean, their policies over the last 4 years, the war on the middle class, inflation is a freaking tax on everybody, especially the middle class, wide open borders, I can't think of one good thing about her. And now all these opinions, it's important for me to point this out that these are my personal opinions, not the opinions of Vote for America. We do not endorse candidates or parties, etc. So that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Jason. Everybody else on the panel was weighed in on that particular topic, so I just wanted to get your opinion on that before we dive in. So the next one is a post that Charlie Kirk recently made, and basically saying ignore the polls, the pundits, the betting markets, early voting numbers, ignore all this gaslighting from the mainstream media saying that Kamala has got this momentum the last few days. Ignore even the people saying that Trump has this, in the bag. You got to go vote. And that's kind of the gist of tonight's episode, is that we're going to get into some other videos like Patrick Byrne and whatnot, basically saying that the Democrats at any point in time have a 7 to 10% advantage just from cheating alone. So that's the hurdle that we're trying to overcome. So when we say we have to make it too big to rig, the only way to do that is to get all y'all out there voting and to take somebody with you. So, Jason, again, I'm going to go to the rest of the panel here in a minute, but I want to hear your thoughts on, what happens over the next couple days as far as how much we've seen that we've got early voting numbers turning out really strong. And you even commented, hopefully that doesn't affect things on election day. So I'm just curious to get your thoughts in general, not just in Nevada, how big this task is in front of us really in the next 36.
So hopefully we're not cannibalizing everything from the same day voting, right? The cake is already baked, right? Everyone has made up their mind. Everybody that's out there, there's very few undecided voters. Right now, this election boils down to who's willing to wait in line and who's willing to take that extra step. And when somebody tells me, oh man, I did my part, I voted, no, you're supposed to vote. You haven't done anything special, buddy. It's like somebody who says, I've never been to jail. Well, you're not supposed to go to jail. You don't get a cookie for not going to jail, right? And so my thing to everybody out there, we're fighting a minion army in 12 counties that are ballot harvesting and using every trick in the book in 12 counties. You're Fulton County, right there where Detroit is, where Milwaukee is, in Phoenix. They have a paid minion army, but they do not stand a chance against an army of patriots, against mothers and fathers and patriots that love this country, if we'll go that extra step and each find one person. We all know one person. We all know one person that thinks their vote doesn't matter. When I say don't vote alone, I'm not talking about Aunt Pam. I'm not talking, she's voted every time since she was 18. When you and Aunt Pam go vote together, you're saving gas. When you and Aunt Pam go load grumpy Uncle Steve up, you're saving America. And every single one of us knows somebody that may be out of town or what, somebody. Get on the phone, take the time, Find somebody. If you have already early voted, your job on Tuesday is to find one more person, go to the polls, make a day of it, eat breakfast, go to range. I don't care what you do. But when this army of patriots stands up and we show up and the silent majority is silent no more, we take our country back. So for the next 2 days, 48 hours, ignore the media, ignore the polls. I don't care. Your job is to find one person. And when you do that, find another one.
Hey, Jason.
Yes.
So I've heard some rumors and some of the stuff that I've read that they're saying that a large portion of these early voters are low propensity voters, that they're people that are being pulled in by the Elon Musk get out the vote, the Turning Point USA, where they're getting people out that are low propensity voters. Have you heard anything about that? I'm just wondering. It's not that I'm saying that we shouldn't get out and vote at all. I'm just trying to get kind of a little bit of if you have a little bit of a handle on what I've heard about that.
One, thank God for Elon Musk and him spending $44 billion for free speech. If you've got internet, try Starlink. It's the best thing in the world. It might cost you $20 more a month. It's worth it to support the man that is fighting for free speech. I have seen some numbers in Nevada and North Carolina where 16% of the voters, early voters in Nevada, did not vote in 2020. And then 18% of the people in North Carolina did not vote in 2020. I have not seen individual numbers for the other states so far. But I do know that normally new voters, like new voters that have never voted before, they normally pound us there, like 85%, 15%. Right now, they're leading with new voters in the early vote, 51-49, which has closed a huge gap. So I don't personally have any numbers on Elon's efforts. I know he's sent out hundreds of thousands of checks to people so far, but there's a difference between signing a petition and getting to the polls. So, hopefully Charlie Kirk has done some amazing work on college campuses. He gave his best speech I've ever seen in Duluth, Georgia, a week before last. And he called out the pastors for 5 minutes. And he called on church members, said, your pastor is not speaking to his members. You call him out. The church has led the way since the beginning of this country, whether they led their congregation in a Revolutionary War, whether it was abolition, prohibition, or the civil rights movement. Everything in this country has been led by the churches, and our churches have been silent too long. So church members, call your pastors out and make sure that your members are voting. They don't have to tell you who to vote for, but they can tell you to take your butt to the polls.
Yep. Amen. I agree.
What was the number announced this week with regards to the number of Christians who aren't voting? It was huge.
So I have heard numbers, Catholic numbers, somewhere around 32 million Christians that plan to sit out this election. I don't know if that's true or not. I know that over half of your evangelicals typically don't vote. I know that 42 to 50 million Christians typically don't vote in an election. If only 32 million Christians sit out, that's actually a net gain of 12 to 15 million people for us. But I don't know how much faith I put in that. You can be upset about Trump's view on in vitro fertilization or whatever it may be. The other side is significantly worse than anything that he's done. And he's the one guy that sent Roe back to the states, right? He's done more than any other president in 50 years. For abortion rights. So,
100%, Jason, 100%. So just for the benefit of everybody on the panel, I'm going to pull up a video by Patrick Byrne that's gone pretty viral, and it explains the current situation with regards to why it's so important that we all get out and take people with us to vote over the next 48 hours. When that's done, just because of my sometimers, and I want to keep everything in order, as we wrap up each one of those posts, I'm going to go to John, Jason, Craig, Mike, S2, which is basically a clockwise circle. So everybody will know when your time is to speak. So let's watch this video. It's a couple minutes long, but it's worth watching. This guy's a super intelligent guy on this particular topic. And give me just 1 second to find it. We've got 50 tabs open as usual. All right, here we go.
Folks, I've got some bad news for you, and I'm going to give it to you straight. I have sources inside the Kamala Harris operation, and I can tell you this. As of this morning, Kamala Harris and her people are 100% confident They're not in the least bit worried. They are 100% confident, and they're saying, do not worry about it. Don't worry about the polls. Don't listen to the polls. We have this in the bag. And the Kamala Harris transition team has already been staffed, and it's all Barack Obama's staff. It's Barack Obama. It's his entire staff. The entire transition team is Barack Obama people, and they are not in the least bit worried. They're 100% confident, and that's the word that's reached me from somebody extremely well placed that they know and trust. And I've been told it's actually shocking how confident they are. It's almost with a little smirk that they're saying, do not believe anything you're hearing. We got no problem at all. Wait till you see what happens. And it's because they are 100% confident in the ability of the machines they can make these machines stand up and whistle Dixie, as I've told you before. The only way to defeat this is with a massive turnout. I swear to God, I'm not doing this to manipulate you or get you worried unnecessarily. I'm telling you, they are not in the least bit concerned. They're cool as cucumbers, and they believe they have this in the bag, and do not believe in. And there's no worries at all about what the polls say, what this say, this election is done in their minds. They're picking out drapes for the White House. They're not in the least bit concerned. You know what to do. Share this video. And share this video and get out there. Get, the lives. Look, I've lived in communist countries. You guys have no idea what's coming for you. You are going to regret to your dying day, which may be sooner than you think, if you do not get out now and give this not just the old college try. It's time to go teeth, toes, and fingernails. They are 100%. Kamala Harris's team is not in the least bit worried. They are 100% confident that they're winning this. And the transition team is all Barack Obama.
All right, we'll go to you first, John. Thoughts on Patrick's warning?
Well, I think it's an interesting warning. I don't know. I tend to be a little bit more optimistic than that. I think that the reality is a lot more people have woken up than what they're anticipating. That's just my feeling. Even in my communist state of Illinois, there are way more people that voted for Biden that I work with. And this is anecdotal. I understand that. But I mean, lifelong Democrats that are voting for Trump. I mean, lifelong Democrats in my family voting for Trump. I've already taken 7 people to the polls myself to vote early. And 5 of them have never voted before. So I'm doing that in my own state. I know there's a lot more people doing that. And I tend to think that this is the overconfidence of the Hillary Clinton campaign in 2016. Not that I'm saying that we shouldn't be alarmed and we shouldn't get out there and vote. Honestly, I think being alarmed makes you more, aware of what's going on and aware of the stakes. So it makes this more of a drastic thing. But I do think that they're in for a big surprise on Tuesday. Could be wrong. But I am optimistic that that there's a lot more people that either haven't voted before or have voted Democrat before that are switching over because they see this freight train coming down the tracks as well.
Let's hope. Jason, this is squarely in your wheelhouse.
I 100% believe that they are working as hard as they can, using every tool and trick in their bag in those 12 counties. We know what they're going to do, and whether the number 6% or 8% or whatever, we literally have to overwhelm them. We have to overwhelm them at the polls. I think with RFK, I think that's huge. But most recently with Rand Paul saying he wants to be part of Elon's team, I think hopefully that will bring the last bit of libertarians over in this election. And hey, 1 or 2% in the polls is a big deal this time around, right? So I like to be more optimistic, but I can tell you this, that if we don't all get involved and take that one person and show up, we get to November the 6th and you're looking up there and things aren't looking so great. You need to ask yourself, did I do everything in my power to win this election? And if you didn't find one person, you didn't. I mean, shoot, you've carried 7 to the polls already, right? And but yeah, find one person. That's it, because I don't trust anything at this point.
Appreciate it, Jason. Craig, your thoughts on Patrick's dire warning?
Yeah, he's everything is a psyop at this point, right? Going into the election, and I don't know if you guys are going to get. I'm getting about maybe 80% of what is being said. I think I'm having a connection issue, but
you're cutting.
I'm optimistic.
Do you have your charger?
I'm going to echo what Jason said. I'm encouraged by the has shown up to get behind Trump, like Paul, like Elon, like Kennedy. I mean, these are some straws in the wind of a lot of different people from a lot of different areas that were historically Democrat or Republican or just simply anti-conservative or anti-Republican are getting on board with beating the revolutionary communists of America, like we just saw. This is I don't know what it really looks like after this, right? What we're seeing here and what they're flooding the air, the X, and they're flooding the different channels of social media with all the propaganda they can muster. All the swing states are full of propaganda and are full of to influence anyone who hasn't voted yet, right?
You're cutting in and out.
Also, it's the cake has been baked. Yeah, no, I mean, you guys are too. I'm not sure how much you're getting me.
It seems to be isolated just
So,
to you, Greg. But let me move on and get Mike's
I don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Well, I was picking up what he was saying, even if it was just every 2 out of every 3 words. That's okay. Yeah, I 100%. I mean, we've all been working our hearts out for several months now. Well, heck, actually a couple of years now, trying to convert people over into some kind of a semblance of common sense. And yeah, absolutely, we need to take extra people to the polls with us. But now that we here in the survival dispatch team, we all know that. I've been working on a couple of my relatives. I was astounded, lifelong Democrats, and they're like, "No, I can't do this." They called me up and were like, "Hey, something that you said to me a long time ago has been bugging me," and it was the whole concept of tell me one thing that Kamala Harris has done without mentioning Trump, Republicans, anything like that. I said, take all the time that you want, just think about it. And we talked about that in a conversation a long time ago. And man, my aunt called me up a couple months ago and was like, all right, you were right. I thought about it for several months. She says, I haven't been able to figure out a single solitary thing that woman has done. So, and then I got relatives watching a couple of the interviews that have happened recently. Man, I made a couple of converts, and that's all that really matters.
Right on.
Took 2 votes away from them, added them on to us.
That's a 4-vote swing.
Yep, that's awesome. S2.
I can tell you something she's done. She's fucked up this country. How's that?
Something constructive.
Right.
Oh, well, you're going to have to specify that next time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be honest with you. I look at a lot of the things since I've been involved in this since 2019, seeing what was coming down the pike and listening to Patrick Byrne from day one. He kind of went back underground for a long time, and just in the last couple of months or so, he's resurfaced again. And I tend to take Patrick Byrne with a grain of salt most of the time. He is very good at psyoping folks and manipulating things. And I think this is more of his attempt to give people a sense of urgency. Whether what he's saying is true or not, he's saying it in such a way to say that there's a sense of urgency here, and this is a signal that everybody needs to be alert. And that's not just that message just isn't for us, the voters. That message is for the attorneys. That's for everybody that is going to have to end up in the courts with all of this. Most of what Patrick Byrne says is signal, in my opinion.
Fair enough. All right. So we've got just a ton of different posts and videos tonight. So I'm going to try and go through them relatively quickly. We won't stop on each one. So I'm going to play the next two videos back to back. One is Trump, then the next one is Tulsi. Then we'll stop and we'll comment on it before moving on. So here we go.
Day or so, but in Lancaster, they found 2,600 ballots, all done by the same hand. In other words, the same exact penmanship, the same hand, the same everything. It was all done by the same pen, the exact same pen. And then they go and they say, well, this is a conspiracy theorist. It's a terrible thing that's happened to our country. And the whole world watches it, even third world countries. I was telling a friend came in last night. He comes from a country, works there a lot, knows it. And it's not a great country, to be honest with you. And he said, but when we vote, they take our fingerprints and they check our fingerprints. We can't get away with anything. This is a third world country. In our country, think of it. You are not allowed to even ask for somebody's voter ID. And if you do ask, I think they have the right to put you in jail. Not the one that's cheating, the one that's asking, I want honesty. Oh, let's go to jail. It's a terrible thing. And I tell you what, I love being off these stupid teleprompters because the truth comes out.
All right.
So we got 48 hours to go. Our founding fathers were very intentional in the words that they put in our founding documents. When they wrote that preamble to the Constitution, they said, we the people. That is a call to action, my friends. They reminded us that our government only exists with the consent of the governed. So for those of us who love our great country and cherish peace and freedom, it is our responsibility to do all that we can to save our country, to defend our freedom and our future. We got 2 days to do that. We got to do better than just vote ourselves, though. I want to challenge every single one of you here. Who's voted already, by the way? All right. Every one of you, before you lay your head down tonight, I want you to take responsibility for 10 people in your lives to make sure that they get out and cast their vote right alongside you.
And by the way, I just want to mention kudos to Jason Wilson. This whole thing of taking extra people started with him many, many months ago.
Every single vote will make the difference. Your vote in Pennsylvania could be the difference between saving our country or putting us in a place where we end up down this path of destruction that Kamala Harris has led us on. I would say no pressure, but the pressure is on.
All right. So, John, first question based on those two videos is it's rhetorical in nature, but it's not necessarily rhetorical. How can we be the most advanced country in the world and do a worse job than many second and third world countries do of conducting elections? What's the cause of that?
There are no good answers to that. There are no good answers. No answers that would lead you to something other than nefarious reasons, in my opinion. We are the people in power, and I'm not even talking Republican, Democrat. I'm talking about the people in power, the people that you don't know, the people that actually run the country. They want it this way. Because when you look at polling across the board, across party lines, it's like 80-something+% want voter ID, just like 85% want term limits on Congress. There's no good answer to the fact that we do not have the most sophisticated elections system in the world. The most advanced country technologically in the world. We should have the most advanced and foolproof election system in the world. but we don't. You know,
would-
it's just like you're seeing articles out in the news all over the place about, oh, the Dominion voting machines are messing up, guys. Looks like we're going to have to, you know, we're going to have to reboot all of these. We're going to have to do all of this stuff. It's infuriating that a third world country. Well, here, and we could even go state by state. That's the thing. How is it that Florida, the fourth largest state in our country, can have 99% or third now? Yeah. How can they have 99% of their votes, including mail-ins, voted or counted in 3.5 hours before the polls close in California? They have their votes counted.
Well, we went from being
because they kicked the feds out of their state. That's
Well,
why.
we went from
there were
we
two,
went from being the worst state for conducting elections to one of the best.
and there was
in 24 years.
There was one key move that Ron DeSantis did when he became the governor of Florida. He kicked several key election officials out of Palm Beach County, out of Miami-Dade County. And you know what happened in those counties? They went from being like 60% Democrat to almost being 50-50 now.
And Broward County.
And Broward County. Yeah, sorry, I couldn't remember the other one. But yeah, kicked those election judges out. What do you think's going on in Maricopa County? What do you think's going on in Philadelphia County? It's the same crap. It's the same corrupt system that was going on in Florida. It's just that you actually had somebody that went in there and said, okay, I'm cleaning house. We're going to actually have free and fair elections. There is no excuse for it taking weeks to count these votes. None. Unless you're trying to steal.
Jason, how do you square this?
I 100% agree. It's intentional. Like when you have more faith than a purple mark on someone's finger in Afghanistan, and you have the election system in the U.S. I mean, the Democrats oppose voter ID. They are for open borders. They oppose keeping non-citizens off of the ballot, right? I mean, they're not dumb. I mean, these people are really, really smart, and it's intentional. And it's, you know, whether you want to blame the Democrats or you want to blame the people in power, like the American people want term limits. But those people in power don't. They want their puppets that they bought and paid for over the years. And, you know, hopefully this will be the election that begins to change things. But it's 100% intentional. I mean, we are smart enough to fix this problem. Ron DeSantis fixed this problem. It could be fixed in every state in the nation if they wanted to fix it.
Amen to that. I've been saying for a couple months now, Jason, that the only way I can square this stuff is that our government is under the direct control of our enemies. There's no other explanation for them always putting us last and everybody else first.
Or the government is our enemy.
Well, so yeah, same difference, 6 to 1, half dozen, you know, probably. But Mike, get your feedback on, you were in Afghanistan. You saw people with the purple mark on their finger, and they did a better job than what we do.
I mean, I look at it this way, okay? We can put a serial number on every dollar bill in circulation and track that dollar bill. Why don't we have a serial number on every single solitary ballot that's out there associated with a citizen's name?
You mean a chain of custody?
What? Holy Hannah, where are we at with this? This has got to be absolutely out of this is the Twilight Zone. Yeah. Look, we're past the point. We're past the point of inept. All right. Now it's malice. Period.
So S2, I all that shit you said about Mike before, I think you should take it back because that was a great answer on Mike's part.
I blacked out what I say.
I don't know. He's putting damn words in my mouth again, fucker.
Yep.
No, I you know, what Josh says is 100%, or John, sorry. What Florida did right was DeSantis, they wanted to have these election monitors down in Florida, and they just so happened to be the feds down there. And when he kicked them out of there in 2022 and said, nope, you're not monitoring our elections, that was a big step forward and to say, fuck you to the government. And because I guarantee you, if they were allowed to stay down there and monitor those elections, something would have gone sideways with that. So to say that our federal government
is for it to happen in this election, as the DOJ has been trying to get us to accept federal monitors throughout this entire cycle.
Yeah.
And Ron DeSantis said, no,
Yeah.
we're not doing it. We're not playing that game.
Yep. Once you get rid of that element down there, because they're on the ground, they're watching what's going on, they're perpetrating what's going on. If they're down there to monitor and they can make a phone call to somebody and say, hey, this isn't going the way we want it to go. We're going to have to do something. Go ahead and flip the switch on that voting machine. That's exactly what they're doing down there. The other part of this is
we saw this in 2020. They they flipped the switch in Pennsylvania and they flipped the switch in Michigan. And then when they turned the switch back on a couple of hours later, there were 200,000 votes, 99 or 100% for one person. That does not freaking happen normally.
So
even the bluest areas are like 70%. You're still going to get 30% red vote in those areas.
So I can tell you exactly how that happened, because our friend Todd Callender, his chief technology officer, is Dennis Montgomery. Dennis Montgomery is the CIA asset who wrote Hammer and Scorecard that the CIA used for many years to steal elections in other countries. And they used it on our machines in 2020. And to this day, he's absolutely pissed that they used the software he wrote against us in America. So,
well, I wasn't done with what I was saying here either. We want to ask how we ask how we got to this point. We're also to blame for this. And when I say us, I mean us as the general public, for being apathetic and lazy. I mean, basically, we have taken on this attitude because we're all patriotic and freedom-like and everything, and we say that this can never happen here. Well, guess what, ladies? It's happening here. And it's through that apathy of thinking all of this time that this can't happen here. It's been happening to you. You just haven't been paying attention. So it's time to stop being apathetic, and it's time to stop being lazy. And unfortunately, right now, we're playing kind of cleanup at bat right now, and this is all or nothing.
All right. Craig, how's your connection there, Craig? Oh, he's bounced back out again. I just didn't notice that until now. All right. So just to inject a little bit of levity into the conversation before we move on to the next one, I thought this was a good meme. The biggest Super Bowl in history is coming up November 5th. It's the Patriots versus the Steelers. I thought that was a good one. Next one up is a post from Tom Fitton. And if you're a Patreon member, so patreon.com/survival dispatcher, click the link down below. We have free memberships and we have memberships that are $9.99. The brief for tonight's video is on Patreon. Free and paid members have access to it. So I'm not going to read through all of Tom's stuff here, but there are half a dozen things going on right now that all come back to Fulton County, where they're absolutely stealing stuff again. And there's not enough time left to ask a court to even act on this stuff. So whatever the number is of cheating that's going on in Fulton County probably is what it is. And it's part of that, call it, the 7 to 10% that Steve Bannon and Patrick Byrne have mentioned before. Let's see. Next one here. We won't watch an ad. That shouldn't have been in there. That was by accident. All right. This one, though, I definitely want to discuss with everybody. So Chuck Colesto, he's known for breaking a lot of stuff. He posted this not too long ago, a few hours ago, that a Canadian citizen was able to register to vote in California and was informed that he can vote electronically. So it's pretty easy from an IP address to tell if somebody's in your country or not. So there's clearly no checks and balances going on there at all. John, any of those pieces, Fulton County or a foreign national being able to vote, comments on either?
Well, it's more of the same in these corrupt. I mean, it just goes to what I was just talking about. You have corruption. And this goes all the way down to the county level, the precinct level. That's what you have to do. That's what goes on in my state of Illinois. If you get outside of the Chicago metro area, it's as red as any area or any state in the country. No, I mean, you come to Southern Illinois and someday you guys come up here, you'll be like, wow, this feels like Tennessee or Texas or Florida. It's this city to our north, 4.5 hours to our north, that they have perfected cheating. And they started this back in the 1960s. I mean, I know people that have been paid to vote in Chicago personally. I've been taken on bus rides to Chicago to vote. So they have perfected cheating in Chicago. They probably don't even have to do that. That was back in like the 80s. But what I'm saying is they have perfected this. Until you have a governor like a Ron DeSantis or somebody that's actually willing to go to war with these people, it's going to continue to happen. I think, now I will say this, I think there are more eyeballs on this thing than there ever have been. I think it's going to be real hard for them to pull off the level of cheating they did in 2020 because of the amount of eyeballs, the amount of attorneys, the amount of all of this stuff, because they know, one thing I will say about Donald Trump, he learns from his mistakes, and he made some mistakes in 2020 in that election. If he does like what he normally does, and he learns from his mistakes, they've already got some things in place to deal with this stuff. They're going to continue to do it until they're caught. It's like a kid with his hand in a cookie jar. It's just going to continue until they get caught and they get exposed and they get kicked out of these positions where they can turn our elections. I mean, let's go back to Florida. Florida was one of the most expensive swing states for my entire life until Ron DeSantis did one thing and kicked all of these judges out. How much cheating do you think's gone on in Florida for my lifetime, the last 40 years? A lot, because now the Democrats are not even contesting Florida now. They know it's a red state. It's done. It's not a swing state anymore because he did that one thing.
We're not seeing much, if any, advertising here for Harris Walls at all. Jason, go to you next. Jason, can you hear us?
He looks frozen.
Yeah, he does look frozen. Mike, I'll go to you, and hopefully Jason gets his connection straightened out. So go ahead, Mike.
He must be having a stroke.
Right.
I mean, you guys have pretty well just beat this to death. There's, at this point, there's absolutely nothing that anybody can throw out there that justifies the things that these people have been doing. Come on, I mean, it's clear that they've cheated a billion times. There's court records of them cheating. Yet you still get people saying, there's no cheating. You did all the cheating. Shut up, blue hair.
Conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Right. Sit here and continue drinking beer.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Mike. I mean, we beat that one pretty much to death. I'm not trying to cut anybody out of the conversation, but we do have 16 more links to go through. So this next one, I'll go straight to S2, and then Craig after that. We'll keep it in order going around here. But how on earth does this happen? The Pentagon failed to send absentee ballots to active military service members that are out of the country right now.
Oh, that's common.
In this day and age, though, that's absolutely blood boiling. In my opinion, this is the only instance when mail-in voting should be allowed. S2.
Yeah. So like Mike said, that's pretty common for them to forget or they get lost or whatever happens to them. It's not very unusual at all.
Yeah. It's not right. That's all. I'll leave it at that. Craig, how's your connection? Can you jump in?
I think it's better now. I switched devices.
Way better.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I'm back. What I missed? I only got half of what you guys were saying.
Well, tell you what, just because we do have a lot more ground to cover, I'll go to the next article, but I'll come to you first.
All right.
All right. So let's see here. The next one up that we have. Oh, this is good. Actually, there's two of them that I'll show back to back. They're both relatively short.
Use the stylus.
You catch that?
Oh, yeah.
So much for logic and accuracy.
Where
Yeah.
I have an explanation to this.
Voted in the white settlement election. I voted for one president, checked it on the video screen. When I got the paper ballot, it had the other candidate's name on it. Check your paper ballots, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so just to make sure that everybody caught that, I don't mean necessarily on the panel, but out there as well. So there's some voting machines, you select somebody on a touch screen and your vote's registered and that's it. But there are other states where you use a touch screen, make your selections, it spits out a paper ballot, which is then scanned. And that's how they're avoiding things like dangling chads and, you know, making sure people colored inside the circle, that sort of thing. Here's my question to you, Craig.
All right.
Are you aware of any instances of any of these different voting machines ever flipping votes from Kamala or Biden to Trump or Hillary to Trump?
I'm not aware of it. It's not happened in our area, but I've seen plenty of instances where it's happened just like that.
You've seen them flip votes from the Democrat to the Republican?
Only on news and media and personal private journalism.
All I've ever seen is it's always the Democrat getting flipped to the Republican vote getting flipped to the Democrat when it's counted.
Yes, I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Yeah, it's always the Democrat getting flipped to the Republican. It's
the other way. The person who votes for a Republican, it always records it as Democrat, is what I've seen.
Right. I'm sorry. That was happening last time.
It was.
We know they're cheating, and you know how one of the telltales of the fact that they're cheating is they've changed their rhetoric from free and fair elections. And 2020 was the fairest election that we've ever seen, ever in the history of elections. Since elections, they've been singing that since 2020.
They have.
They're all coming out and they're all concerned about cheating. And if the system hasn't changed, if the system was fair then, there was no need to change it, right? According to them. And the machines haven't changed. The machines are just as infiltrated. They're all digital. Everything digital can be hacked. They're all hacked. They brought out evidence of that last time, and they're doing it again. But the Republican side, or the let's say the Republican side has been crying foul since the 2020 elections. The Democrat side has been saying it's not been the case. It's been free and fair, the best ever. And now that we're here, the Republicans have laid the groundwork for all of this cheating. And now the Democrats are jumping on board because they know they can't get away with it. And now they're coming out with all this propaganda because I think they know that it's cooked. Trump is going to win in a landslide. I think he won in a landslide last time, right? But I don't think they beat it. And so now they're running with the narrative of cheating before it's even happened.
100%.
I think that's right there.
Okay, thanks, Craig. So in the interest of getting through all the stuff that we need to get through, between John, Mike, and S2, are any of you aware of any of these voting machines going the other direction and switching votes for Democrats to a vote for a Republican? Because I've never seen
you. I've only seen it flip the one way.
Okay.
So, you better believe if these machines were doing that, you would see it on the news all over the place. That's for sure.
You would think.
No,
so.
I've seen it.
Right.
I've seen it. I've seen it happen once, where they actually took votes away from, and it was because this Democrat did not want to play ball with the Democrat Party. Therefore, they didn't want her to be elect or reelected in her position. So they actually did flip votes away from her back over to the Republican.
S2, were you wired into that machine when that happened?
No, but
Senator, I can neither confirm nor deny.
But what I can tell you is I can confirm 100% that those machines can be hacked because I've done it. I've got a screenshot of where I did it once from my phone.
It can be done.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next one.
I should put a disclaimer to that. It was a demo machine. Okay.
All right. So moving on to Pennsylvania, which is probably going to determine the winner of this election. Hopefully we get more people out than they cheat with. But this happened earlier last week. I probably won't play the whole video, but this is actually really widespread cheating, what was uncovered here.
Good morning, everyone. District Attorney Heather Adams. On Tuesday afternoon, I was contacted by Krista Miller, who is our Chief Clerk of Elections, regarding potentially fraudulent voter registration applications that had recently been received by her office. At that time, she informed me that we received approximately 2,500 applications at or near the deadline for registering to vote. While preparing to process these applications, staff noticed that numerous applications appeared to have the same handwriting, were filled out on the same day with unknown signatures, and some were previously registered voters, excuse me, and the signatures on file did not match the signatures on the application. So before I begin to summarize our preliminary findings, I must remind everyone that this is an ongoing investigation, and for that reason, I will be limited in the details that I can provide. Lancaster County detectives began investigating the voter registration applications and immediately found applications that were indeed fraudulent. Indicators of fraud included inaccuracies with the addresses listed on the applications, false personal identification information, as well as false names. A number of the applications also contained names that did not match the provided Social Security information. In some cases, applications contained correct personal identification information, such as the correct address, correct phone number, date of birth, driver's license number, and Social Security number. But the individuals listed on the applications informed detectives that they did not request the form, they did not complete the form, and verified that the signature on the form was not theirs.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next couple and just zip through them as quickly as I can. There's a method to my madness here. Essentially, we're covering multiple ways of cheating that's been occurring over the course of the past couple weeks since early voting started, to make sure that everybody clearly understands this is not just accusations that cheating's going on. And this is probably like the old adage with regards to rats. For every one you see, there's 100 that you don't see.
Indicted for allegedly committing election fraud in Mobile County. Michelle Toomey is facing 2 felonies and a misdemeanor.
The Mobile County DA's office says Toomey forged the signature of a man who was incapacitated at a nursing home where she worked. News reporter Ariel Mallory is in the breaking news center.
All right, Ariel, you spoke with the DA about this. What is he saying?
Well, Anise and Cameron, Keith Blackwood says Michelle Toomey was filling out an application for an absentee ballot for someone who was ruled ineligible to vote. Now, we are just a week away from the general election, and he says anyone caught breaking election laws will be prosecuted.
Someone can just fill out paperwork for somebody else who can't even consent to that and then try to vote for them. That's not free and fair.
Mobile County is seeing its first case of alleged election fraud, according to the district attorney's office.
So we'll do one more here. Actually, this one's a big one. So James O'Keefe has people out in full force, and he's promising that anybody that they catch in their dragnet, for lack of a better term, he's going to make them really, really famous for cheating. And let's do one more. So here's another form of cheating. And I won't play all these videos, but essentially ballot boxes where people are, dropping their ballots in these boxes are being set on fire in multiple different precincts across the country. And this is one of the reasons that I've said to people, don't vote until election day, because if the longer advance time that you vote, the more time it is for people to mess with your vote. And if you swarm everybody on November the 5th, in my opinion, there's less likelihood that your vote's going to be tampered with. So, John, I'll go to you for your thoughts on the last few articles.
So, this is Pennsylvania, correct?
Lancaster County.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Pennsylvania is the birthplace of this nation, and it could end up being the graveyard of this nation. In all honesty, the amount of cheating that's going on, and make no mistakes, Pennsylvania is probably the most important state of all of them. If you win Pennsylvania, it's really hard for the Democrats to win. It's really hard. Trump can actually win without Pennsylvania, but the Democrats really struggle because of the way that the Rust Belt works. Because if Pennsylvania crumbles, then you start putting Wisconsin and Michigan into those things. Dude, this is evil. I mean, I've used so many other, adjectives to explain all of this, but it's evil. It's pure evil. They're lying, they're cheating, and they're stealing. Ironically, I think that's what the devil does.
Imagine that.
But I'm pissed off tonight. I'm just going to say that. I'm pissed off because this is what I'm seeing. All of these people who want to just go through their lives and live this oblivious life, and while the world crumbles around them, but as long as they got their latte from Starbucks and they've got their minivan to go to the soccer game, and little Johnny's in Taekwondo tonight, and Susie's got dance recitals tomorrow, and Normie Norm, it's frustrating to the people that are actually engaged to what's going on and what the stakes are. Because make no mistake, when this thing, if it topples and it topples over to communism, that's going to happen really freaking fast. Once all of the stops are pulled out, it happens super fast. Look at history.
So last night, John S2 made a comment that people are concerned that, we're inching our way towards communism. And he said, no, we're not. Like, we're right in the final stages. We're ready to step off the precipice.
100%. This election is it's that moment. It's that tipping point where you can actually set this thing back if we win, and we do. But it's not just about winning. It's about what we do after we win. We have to do the work to set this stuff back, to send this stuff back into the bowels of hell where it came from. Get rid of this crap. Stop indoctrinating our kids, all of this stuff. But if we lose this thing, and here's the other thing, if we lose this, they're probably going to get the Senate and the House if we lose it. Because if they're going to cheat on that, they're going to cheat and they're going to make it foolproof. And then they're going to take our guns away. And then they're going to do all of this, and they're going to pack the Supreme Court. They're going to do all this stuff. And I promised earlier that I wasn't in fear-mongering mode, but it sounds like I'm kind of in fear-mongering mode tonight. We are on... This is a pivotal point, and we've got people worried about the freaking scores of the football games tonight more than they are about getting their ass off the couch and voting. Sorry, I want to.
There's football games on tonight.
I'm a big fan of Christmas, and so me and my kids started doing some Christmas decorating today, and I want to enjoy Christmas. I want to enjoy the holidays, but I can't get past how stupid people are.
How you guys let him cook.
People are.
Let him cook.
No apology necessary, John. So I think just to expedite things a bit so that we can get through these last articles, Mike, I'm going to pull up the next one and let you address it. Then I'll pull up the next one, let S2 address it, and we'll go through it that way.
Okay.
So this one here is Trump speaking, and let me get her on screen for you.
And I'm the only one that talks about it because everyone's afraid to damn talk about it. And then they accuse you of being a conspiracy theorist. These are conspiracy, and they want to lock you up. They want to put you in jail. The ones that should be locked up are the ones that cheat on these horrible elections that we go through in our country. And I don't know what's going to happen, but for future elections, I won't be even a part of it. But you ought to damn well go to paper ballots. You ought to go to voter ID. And you ought to have the election over by 9 o'clock. I'm hearing now they're going to take weeks. Imagine they spend all this money on machines, and they're going to say, we may take an extra 12 days to determine. And And what do you think happens during that 12 days? What do you think happens?
Somebody's got really heavy breathing coming through their mic.
These elections have to be decided by 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock on Tuesday night. Bunch of crooked people. These are crooked people.
So what I love about that part, Mike, is that his teleprompter was still broken at that point in time. So everything was coming off the cuff.
Well, if being a conspiracy theorist is wrong, I don't want to be right.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, he's not wrong one little bit. This whole thing should be done before midnight. Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The whole thing should be done and over with. There's no excuse. If we can figure this stuff out, I mean, how have they actually gotten to this point where they're this inept? Again, I'm coming back to it's beyond inept. It's beyond them being inept, and now it's malice.
Yes.
So I mean, I think we need to decorate some light posts with some people, like we did in Iraq. But that's just me.
So while you were in Tennessee, Mike, Jeff MD made a really good point. He said, there's 1.2 billion people in India. They all have to show ID to vote, and all of the election results are calculated that night from paper votes. So if they can do it with 1.2 billion people, how come we can't do it with a fraction of that? John?
Well, and that's the sorry, that's the crux of this whole thing is every adult in this country, you cannot function as an adult in the United States without an ID. You just cannot. You can't buy alcohol. You can't get a job. You can't use the bus. If you're in a big city, you can't do any of that stuff without an ID. So this whole BS argument that, oh, well, you're going to, disproportionately affect minority voters if you require voter ID. That's been a hallmark of the left for decades now, for the reason why they don't need voter ID. But yet when you go to big cities, everybody's got ID. And you can track that. You can also track, as we said earlier, we can serialize billions of dollar bills by the mints in this country. We can know and track all of that stuff. In fact, that's how they catch a lot of criminals, is by tracking the dollars.
Right.
But you can't track votes. You can't track ballots. No, you can. You just don't want to, because then you have to be honest.
Whoa. Define honest.
Right. So let me pull the next one up for S2 here, because this one was news to me when I came across it, and I've got some questions around it as well. So they uncovered this scheme where somebody was taking a black Sharpie and putting marks on the back of the ballots. You see right above my cursor there?
Mm-hmm.
You can see it over here as well. So essentially what happens is when the machine detects that paper ballot with an extra mark on it, it's automatically discarding it. So it's kind of like an analog cheat as opposed to a pure digital cheat. It's the first time I've seen that. Like from an analog perspective, you got people burning, votes. You've got people bringing boxes of paper votes in. But this one here of marking ballots so that, nobody's looking at the back for a little, tick from a Sharpie, and those people's votes are not counted and nobody's any the wiser. It's the first time I've seen anything like that. But S2, here's the question. Are there any other analog ways of cheating that we haven't already covered that you're aware of?
I'm sure there are. I mean, the little dot with the Sharpie, that's pretty creative, actually. But that doesn't nullify that person's vote. What it does is it sends it to adjudication, where somebody else gets to decide what your intention was. So if you mark it, that's one of the reasons why they were bitching up and down in Maricopa County in 2020, actually 2022 and 2020, that they were giving people Sharpies to mark their ballots and they were bleeding through, and the not the I don't want to say the tabulators, because I don't think it was the tabulators, it was the ballot scanners that were reading them wrong. So then they would have to take those out, stick those in a bin, and they would go to an adjudication room where obviously during 2020, Republican poll watchers had to stay 16 feet away from, or 6 feet, I think it was actually 20 feet away from where they were actually counting the ballots. And they were like, yeah, we got to have binoculars to be able to see what's going on with these things.
Right.
So, but as far as analog ways of cheating, I can't think of any right off the top of my head. I mean, we've covered the ballot harvesting. We've covered this little thing here, Sharpie Gate. And the whole Sharpie thing's not new.
So there was another video S2 that went with that story that basically said that you're right. Like normally the next step would be adjudication to see what happens with it. But wherever that precinct was, and I can't find the video, I just had a quick look for it, basically said that that precinct is known for just looking at it and going, yeah, it doesn't count, and getting rid of them. So they're all in the know probably, right? So they can look at it, camera and
legally
say, oh,
they can't. Legally, they can't say it doesn't count. Legally, they have to adjudicate it. They can't just say, "Oh, I can't read this when it goes in the garbage." It's your vote.
Well, legally though, they can't do any of these things we're discussing. So that's kind of that's a given that it's against the law. But my point is that when you take a situation like you described, you have to be 20 feet away, and they don't follow the process other than just visually. Oh yeah, that's no good. It's really hard to get a court involved fast enough to save the electoral college votes, is what it boils down.
Well, I'd say that they probably have their ducks more in a line this time, because of the fact that we realized that the people that are fighting this at that level were of an understanding this time around that they needed to have stuff ready to go and have attorneys on the ground at the drop of a hat. So I think there's, to my point with all of this, there's a lot of things that they did in 2020 and things that they did in 2022 that they're, to John's point, they're just not going to be able to get away with as easily. Some of it, yeah, they're going to be able to get away with it 100%. Just depends on where it happens. But
or they won't be able to get away with it at all, because I mean, I think I've got one more story to pull up as to that basically shows somebody who was charged. We saw barely anybody slapped on the wrist last time around. I think you're right. This time around, people are going to get caught, and they're going to get more than a slap on the wrist.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But if it's happening in a blue city, chances are they're just going to get no bail, and they're going to be let out on the street and then get a misdemeanor charge or something like that. I mean,
well,
let's face it.
Initially, that probably will happen in those blue districts. But Donald Trump is on record, and I have a video coming up with him stating that they are going to go back and find every instance of people cheating and charge them federally. So people can run, but they can't hide. And that's kind of James O'Keefe's thing right now as well. You might think you're getting away with it because you're in a Democrat stronghold and you have a Democrat DA. But when we get back in office, we're coming back for you guys. So
the problem has not been the evidence or proving that the crime occurred. The problem has been who's going to prosecute it. That's the problem.
And that's where Trump has said it will be federal under his administration. So I've got one here for you, Craig, from your neck of the woods. Wasn't Pete? I can't even pronounce his last name.
Blagojevich.
Butt gig.
Okay, fair enough. Isn't he in your neck of the woods there? Craig, wasn't he a mayor in Indiana, or have I got my states mixed up?
No, he's in Ohio.
All right. Well, let's have a listen.
All right, you're right.
South Bend.
South Bend. That's right.
Yeah, he was the mayor of South Bend. Yep.
Yeah.
Fair enough. So I can't stand her. I mean, she's just brutal. But anyway, listen to the way that this is now on to not just cheating, but like gaslighting to basically, discourage Trump supporters from even going because, Harris has got this big, last minute surge.
I have to start with this brand new poll out of Iowa, a state you won in a Democratic caucus back in 2020. We all remember that. You also did some local media in Iowa last week, which sent the internet a spur. What do you make of that poll, knowing Iowa as you know it, knowing the electorate as you know it?
Horseshit.
Well, yeah, I spent a lot of time in Iowa, and on one level, it's remarkable, and on another level, I could see it. Look, Iowa is full of people who think for themselves, folks who are not afraid to cross party lines, who usually vote this way but decide to vote that way based on the candidates. And, it tracks with the fact that we've seen, as far as I can tell, an unprecedented number of Republicans out there saying, hey, this time you got to vote for the Democrats. So look, it's only one poll. You don't want to get carried away. But if you do live and breathe this stuff, you know that this might be the most famous name in polling, certainly in Iowa. And somebody who's extremely rigorous. So I think what that tells us is not just what could happen in Iowa, but what is happening across the country. And I've got to tell you, and I say this in all humility because nobody really knows anything for sure until the election ends, but it is consistent with how it feels right now on the ground in Michigan. I'm right now at a field office in Ingham County, been crisscrossing the state for the last day and a half, and there's an extraordinary amount of energy. We just kicked off a canvas with dozens, probably about 100 volunteers getting ready to go out, knock on doors, and that momentum is palpable. It's real, and I hope if we all do our job and make sure we talk to every voter we can think of, both about how to vote and about whether to vote, I think this could propel a real victory on Tuesday.
All right, Craig. So here's
Hatch Act, anybody?
Here's my question for you, Craig, is everything that I've seen from the past few days, as far as Kamala rallies are concerned, there's 100 people, there's 200 people. Hillary Clinton was with her on yesterday or the day before, and they couldn't even fill a high school gymnasium halfway full. So this is straight up gaslighting, trying to convince people that Kamala's, finishing strong and don't bother voting for Donald Trump. It's a done deal, so on and so forth. So, Craig, you're in Indiana. He says he feels that it's palpable, the support for Kamala. Is it? What is your sense of things in Indiana?
Well, everything he just said. I mean, he's a communist first, which means he's a liar first, right? He's not in telling the truth about anything. They haven't been telling the truth for the last 4 years. They're not going to start and have some, moral revelation. Oh, maybe we're wrong. They're not going to stop, and they're not going to stop lying. And this kind of propaganda, drivel, wouldn't be necessary if they were winning. They are 100% on the ropes with this. I think the cheating is going to be much more difficult to get away with. It's not going to stop them from trying, but they are full steam ahead with the propaganda. I wouldn't believe a word of it. That's it.
I think the key thing here is, in typical Survival Dispatch News fashion, not just tonight, but over the next 48 hours, we've got to make sure that people we talk to that are in our circles understand this is gaslighting. This is not real. None of this is really happening. John, go ahead.
I'm gonna quote one of my favorites on the right, Mr. Glenn Beck, and he said this about 2 weeks ago. Do not believe a thing the final 3 days going into the election. There's so much gaslighting. There is so much false and disinformation and all of this stuff. And I will say this. Ben Shapiro said this ad nauseum for the last month. What campaign is having fun? What campaign is having fun? Kamala Harris is not having any fun right now, guys. You can usually tell the team that's winning by the team that's having fun on the field. Right now, all of that energy, all of that fun, all of that excitement is on Trump's side. That's why I believe the only way is for them to gum up the works, cheat their asses off, and try and win that way. That's the only way that they can win.
How many times have we said that you've got the SSRI pill popping, cat ladies on the left that are just miserable. And then even Trump can, make a couple jokes with regards to an assassination attempt. There's no levity on their side whatsoever. But since you're next in the rotation, John, this is a good one. This is actually a pretty funny video. Enjoy.
That's right. You guys are going to see in 2024, when there's a red wave and there's a landslide, what's going to happen. And if you guys try it again with what happened with the last election, with the cheating and the changing the votes at 3 o'clock in the morning, and the, what was it? The suitcases coming in, people running votes through the machines more than once. We're tired of it. We're done. We're voting for Trump. We're gonna be voting red all the way down ticket. We're gonna get Mayor Adams out of here. We're gonna get AOC out of here. It's over. We're tired. That's it.
His
Wouldn't
lips
that be
got
amazing?
here.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Oh my gosh!
Like if you flip New York City.
And here's the thing. There's two ways that this goes, and it's that this election ends up being very, very close, and the Democrats somehow eke it out through the courts or some kind of lame process or something. Or the reality is that kind of stuff could be all over the place, and they're not seeing it, and those people are not taking pollsters. They're not talking to anybody. Keep in mind, Trump voters historically have not been easy to poll. They've been very hard to poll. One of the reasons Trafalgar was one of the most accurate pollsters for the last couple of cycles is because he figured out some methodology to at least pick up some percentages of those votes. And that's why he was so accurate at picking some of these swing states in 2016 and even in the midterms. The problem is, I don't think Trump voters want to be polled. I don't think they want to be polled. I don't think they get polled very often. That's why you're seeing Iowa polls where Trump's got a 3-point lead, because they couldn't find anybody to poll.
There's a professor from some school who's a subject matter expert in polling, and I just read yesterday, and I had read it in the past, but I'd forgotten about it. He said that many Trump voters, when they get the phone call from somebody say they're polling them, they say, I'm not interested, because they're afraid that if they tell the pollster that they're voting for Trump, that will land them on a list. It'll get them categorized in some manner, whatever. And I mean, that's pretty sad in this day and age for America.
Well, and that's really the thing is, and what I was saying, the other option is by 8 or 9 o'clock, we know Trump's winning all of these states because it's so bad. Like, this could end up being a blowout. I mean, in all honesty, I'm not saying that I think that's what's going to happen. Unfortunately, I think this is going to take a couple of days, but I think that, man, I really think that there's too many of those people that they're not being able to grab a pulse of. And just look at the campaigns. Look at how they're behaving. Do you think Kamala Harris, publicly, she is not acting with any kind of confidence that she's going to win? None.
She's not, but people in Obama's presence are saying that he's downright cocky about them winning. So we shall see. But Mike, next video is yours. And this is Laura Trump announcing that they've trained 200,000 people. We'll have a listen to this, and then you can comment on it.
We have had a big goal of recruiting 100,000 people to volunteer as poll watchers, poll workers, legal experts on the ground. And we said, I don't know, 100,000 is a lot. I'm happy to report that we have trained 200,000 people across this country to do that. So our message is very clear. If you are a person who is considering cheating in our elections, we will find you, we will track you down, and we will prosecute you to the full extent of the law. And if you're an illegal citizen voting in our election, we'll track you down and prosecute you to the full extent of the law, and you're leaving this country. How's that sound? Don't do it.
She's friggin' awesome. What do you think, Mike? I mean, I love her. She is full of piss and vinegar.
And not terrible to look at either.
No, not at all. Guys,
you're on mute, Mike.
I want to buy her a beer right now. I mean, she's got. Yeah, let's go. Let's do this thing. Yeah, I'll tell you what. Like, I signed up to be a poll watcher, and I just got notified the other day that they're overloaded with poll watchers. And they wanted to know. They were like, look, the only place that we can put you on as a poll watcher is in Mobile. How do you feel about driving to the opposite end of the state? And I said, I don't think I'm going to do that, but I'm sure you're going to find some people. And they were like, yeah, we're pretty sure we're going to find some people too. But yeah, I mean, trying to get poll watchers right now, there's billions of people signing up. You can sign up as a poll watcher through the VA. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that was where I signed up. I was like, yeah, sure. Why not? But, and that of course got me passed off to some other folks, but yeah, I'll tell you what, we've all got skin in the game. We've all got skin in the game, folks.
Yeah.
Get out there and actually do what you're supposed to do. Everybody wants rights. Nobody wants responsibilities. One does not come without the other.
Amen to that. The next video for US2 is a really good one with Donald Trump, but I want to address this Kilo 13. You guys really do need to believe that us Dems do not want a stolen election either. We want paper ballots. We want safe elections as well, but 300 million people takes time to count if they're paper. Well, the population is 330 million, and only a fraction of that number can actually vote legally, number one. Number two, India has 1.2 billion people. They have all paper ballots, voter ID, and the results are announced before midnight. So if the Indians can do it, and we're supposed to be the most advanced country in the world, then so can we. And we always did it in the past as well.
And that's the thing that I was going to bring up.
I'll go to add this too. How the hell have we done it since the inception of this country up until this point?
Yeah, and they used the mail-in excuse for 2020 that there were just so many mail-in ballots and all this stuff. Those
look at this bullshit. No, we got to address this right now before this clown disappears. Intimidating voters. How about the people that work on the Democrat side that put cardboard over windows, breaking the law and not allowing people to observe their actions? How about Fulton County this week adding 4 new fucking locations and not filing it with the election board and not allowing anybody to come in and monitor it? And the judge it went in front of a judge. He's like, we don't have time to react because the election's in fucking 2 days. You fucking Democrats.
And how about the Democrat operatives that were telling Republicans to get out of line because they couldn't vote and they had to go to another station to vote? How about that?
Chris, look at your watch.
Oh, it's going off. I got it in mute mode. So
yeah,
let's do this one. This one's for you. Good video. You're gonna enjoy it.
You see all the stuff that Google and Facebook and all what they got caught cheating on the last election, the bad things they did, the 51 agents and all of the stuff, the laptop. Remember, it was Russia. It was Russia. No, it was Hunter, as we said. And they affected the election very much. It came out many points, 11 points, 12 points. But that's what we have. And we can never let that happen again. And I said, we're going to go after anybody that gets caught cheating on the election. We're going to go after them harder than anyone's ever been sought before. Because these people are really a threat. They are a threat to democracy. The Democrats are a threat to democracy. That's the real threat.
And that right there is the whole point. That, all these, somebody said in one of the other chats over here, I can't remember which one it was, it's only in Democrat controlled areas where they can't count the ballots.
Isn't that ironic? That's the point I was going to bring up, Chris, is that this does not happen in red big cities.
No,
it does not. Doesn't happen in San Diego. It doesn't happen in the cities in Texas that are red. You don't see this in anything other than, ironically, it's always in the key swing states that are required to win the election, guys, that we have trouble counting these votes. Is that weird? Is that a coincidence?
That just happened to be controlled by unions.
Bingo. All right, so this video was for S2. I brought it up specifically because I wanted to make him feel good about this, that Trump is saying he's not only going back in time for the 2024 cheaters, he's going to go get the 2020 cheaters as well. I second the motion. What are your thoughts, S2?
Well, the question I have is, that's fine to be able to go after people that had cheated in the federal elections, But what about the state and local elections? The federal government has no jurisdiction over that. So what about that? Because that's, at the end of the day, is really what affects our day-to-day lives. What happens in the federal government, yeah, there's stupid laws and crap and the shit that they're pulling affects us, but our lives are really impacted by what goes on in our state and local elections. What about those guys?
No, and that's a great point, and that's a lot. That's a heavy lift, right? Because you're going to have to make that happen in 50 different states. But with regards to the feds, it makes a very big difference in monetary policy and inflation. The inflation.
Well, I think the biggest, I think the biggest difference that makes for that is that it tends to look better as a deterrent. You know, from where I stand when I'm talking about local elections, I think if you start to see that at the federal level, it becomes more of a deterrent at the state and local levels.
Hopefully. I mean, that's a valid comment. All right, so let's go on to the next one for you, Craig. I specifically picked this one just for you, by the way, because based on, and everybody on the panel's into this stuff. It's not just you, but this is a good one as well. This is what you're going to get if you vote for Kamala Harris or you let them get away with the cheating.
Adding to your gun control agenda? Yeah, I think it's a great idea. But I mean, listen, I don't think we lack for great ideas. As I've said many times, we've been having great ideas for decades. The problem is that Congress has not had the courage to act. And that is why, from the beginning, I have said my agenda includes attempting to get Congress to act, but if they don't within the first 100 days of my administration, I'm going to take executive action. Because what we need is action.
All right. So a little bit of background noise there, but essentially she stated this more than once, that if Congress doesn't take legislative action to enact gun control, that her administration is going to do it. She's going to give them 100 days and that's it. But everybody is welcome to comment on this after Craig answers because it's his turn. But it seems to me that if there was anything that these guys could legitimately do with the stroke of a pen for an executive order, they would have already done it. You know, Joe Biden talked all this stuff up and, you know, it turned into what actually came out of it for gun control. That is.
What came control?
Point being is that the executive doesn't really have a whole lot of control over what happens with guns. So is she just blowing smoke, or do you think that there is a legitimate challenge from the executive as far as firearms are concerned?
No, she has no jurisdiction over firearms.
Okay.
None of them do.
That's my belief as well, but I wanted to hear somebody else say
the Constitution is clear that the government cannot infringe upon our rights to keep and bear arms. I don't give a crap what paper you wrote that says I can't own a gun. Guess what? You can take that paper and you can use it the next time you have to go take a dump.
She's talking about how they have great ideas, and that's one of them. I'm going to say that's not a great idea at all, and it hasn't been since 1791 when they ratified the since 1966. It has not been a good idea. We shot those bastards for that crap, and we'll do it again.
The first 3 times if somebody gets shot in the face, that will come to a screeching halt.
Amen to that.
Yep.
That is the truth. All right. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, and the other thing is, you know, this is a part of their agenda. They always wanted to take guns. They've always wanted to take guns, and they'll do whatever they can, and they'll muck up the works. And the reality is I live in a state that blatantly gave the middle finger to the Supreme Court on the Byrne decision, and then they passed a assault weapons ban after that, even though it was very clear that they're not allowed to do that constitutionally. But they also know this: the courts are weak to move on stuff quickly. They had, especially on the right, a lot of these Republicans in these courts, they still want to act as if we're still dealing with the procedural levels of the court, that we're not actually dealing with ideologues on the other side.
Right.
Because the left, they don't give a crap about procedure. They will just move. That's why every time that a federal judge strikes down this law in Illinois, within 2 hours, there is a a countervailing order from a court or an appeal of a court to a higher court within hours of that. They're always ready to do that, but we don't move that fast. And that's always what they know. Yeah, this is probably going to get overturned by the courts, especially if Trump gets reelected. But the problem is this could go on for 2 or 3 years, and that's 2 or 3 years that people in this state can't buy guns, the guns that they want and the guns that they need. So they know they play the long game. They know that they can keep people from buying guns for a couple years while these laws are in effect. So that in every sense is gun control.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so I've only got a couple quick things to cover here before we go to the conflicted question with Mike. Again, this is just good for a laugh. So here's your typical white liberal cat lady thinking that she can rip people's signs off of their yards.
You're trespassing and stealing private property. It's a misdemeanor.
Put the dog on her.
He just hit me in the face.
Better get a cat.
I'm so happy they're coming because I can basically file a claim against him for hitting me in the face. He did not hit you in the face.
They're these crazy cat ladies are just that.
SSRI cat lady Karens.
Bingo,
I'm
bingo.
a victim.
So if you're not on Patreon, whether you're a free member or paid member, I'm going to paste this link in the comment section because this is germane to the conversation. We covered it last week and I think the week before as well on DOD Directive 5240.01, which essentially is a very vaguely written directive that the Biden admin sent to the Pentagon on September the 27th, very quietly, that states that if any law enforcement agency in the country requests mutual aid, that the military can be deployed and use lethal force against Americans on American soil. It overrides the Posse Comitatus Act, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to go deep into this. We've done it before, but if you look at the length of this article, I've read this article twice, and the second time I read it, I still picked up more stuff. This is by far the most comprehensive article that I have seen written on this subject. If you're concerned, as you should be, and you have some spare time, that's a good one to go read. So
I want to give a shout out to S2's graphic tonight because is that Peanut?
We're getting there.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Honestly, I'm just going to real quick. That is the most disturbing story I've seen recently. That a dude with a freaking pet could, when you actually hear what they did to that guy over his freaking squirrel and raccoon, that's tyranny that, like, I don't want to live in that country.
Have you seen the crazy cat ladies that did it?
Why?
John,
why you got to get in the way of the moment, man?
I'm sorry, dude.
Yeah, she was out of Texas. She was out of Texas. She wasn't even living there. She was out of Texas.
Yeah, and they've all nuked their social media, pictures or accounts or whatever, but just stupid insanity stuff. So we put together a list of 5 bullets, action items. They're pretty similar to the ones we had last night. I'm going to rhyme them off quickly, and then each of you will have a chance to add whatever you want to it as well. And then Mike, we're going to conflict the question. We'll put a wrap on this thing. All right. So in light of everything that we've covered tonight, what can you do? Take at least one person with you to the polls who doesn't normally vote. If you can take 2, 3, 4, or 5, that's even better. It's how we make this election too big to rig, which means we make it so big that they can't cheat enough to overcome a tsunami of Trump votes. If you're not a hunter, if you are a hunter or a gun owner who doesn't normally vote, go vote. There are many states, much like Florida here, that you can show up without being registered, show your ID, a receipt for your property taxes, and you can vote. So there's still time for you to exercise your right and protect yourself. And as we just saw, Kamala wants to take your guns. Now, whether or not she has the ability to do it by herself, probably not. But if they end up with a supermajority, the bad things are on the horizon. the last one that I'll throw up there for tonight, actually just 3 from me, is to share Survival Dispatch News and other channels that are truth tellers with your circle of friends and family, especially these last couple episodes that we put out there, because I'll tell you what, I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's worthwhile.
Let him cook.
So we
Say
had,
it ain't so.
we published videos 7 days a week, long form videos on Survival Dispatch ever since I acquired the company several years ago. And that's where Survival Dispatch News came from 2 years ago, which, by the way, tonight is episode number 298. So we're going to pass episode 300 on election night of all nights, which is kind of interesting. So I ended up taking the Survival Dispatch News, moved it to its own YouTube account to protect our main account, because there were multiple announcements made by YouTube and Google that they were really going to turn the screws down on content going into this election cycle. We did that. We briefly mentioned something regarding weather, and I had a choice. I could take a 1 week suspension for Survival Dispatch News, the separate YouTube account, so it didn't affect our main account that has 400,000 subs on it. So I could take a 1 week suspension, and that would have been the end of it. The other option I had is that I could appeal it, and if the appeal ruled against me, the channel would get a strike. I slept on it overnight. I got up the next morning and I decided to appeal it. And the appeal specifically said that your appeal will be reviewed by a human being. It takes a minimum of 72 hours to do it. What we were discussing was frequencies. Frequencies are not up for debate amongst any scientists. If something falls in a certain band, it has a frequency, and that's all there is to it. So I made a very, what I thought, eloquent appeal, sent it directly in from YouTube Studio, went to my email, and less than 60 seconds later got an email saying that they ruled against me. They had manually reviewed it, which it was impossible that they could have done that, ruled against my appeal. So in addition to getting the suspension, we got a strike, and that validated the whole reason why I spun Survival Dispatch News off to its own YouTube channel. So at that point in time, we started focusing on Rumble, and Rumble has been pretty good. I got to say, overall, we've done well on Rumble. We're going to keep putting stuff up on Rumble. And at the top of every brief, if you're a Patreon member, you'll see some stuff at the top where I ask our guests not to mention certain things when we're on YouTube. We have some episodes coming up that will not be on YouTube because they would not only result in a strike, they could be instant channel deletion. Okay. So here's the point that I wanted to make out of all of that. One of the things that I love the most about Rumble is that people are much friendlier. The comments are much friendlier. There's less of these pill-popping Democrat SSRI addicts on Rumble. It's pretty rare for us to get like really abrasive, ignorant comments on Rumble. Whereas YouTube, a lot of YouTube viewers, not all, we've got a lot of good YouTube viewers on our channel, but a lot of YouTube viewers are what I call fresh air inspectors, meaning they collect welfare, Social Security, and they sit on their ass. They got nothing better to do than flap their gums. And here's the crazy thing that I've noticed with these people on YouTube that rant like that is they will say something that is really nasty. Like they'll throw an insult out there towards one of our influencers. There was one recently thrown out towards Jason Sawyer, and anybody who knows Jason Sawyer will tell you he is a very, very decent human being. The guy doesn't have a mean bone in his body. And the comment
makes us all look bad.
He does make us look bad. He's an exceptional father, husband, everything. So this comment that the person made towards him was very caustic. And I replied back to it and told them that they were out of line. And they immediately responded back to me, "Oh, why are you getting upset? You know, oh, I didn't say much, you know." And that's the same argument that we see all the time from Democrats in general. They will say highly ignorant, incendiary things. And when you hold their feet to the fire, they're like, "Oh, I don't know why you're getting mad, you know, just making a comment. Why can't we get along?" Well, you know what? There is no getting along with these people. And you guys have heard me say this, and I'll end it there. There will be no reconciliation. There will be no olive branches. I will never, ever, ever reconcile with somebody who thinks men can get pregnant and that there are 378 make-believe genders and on and on and on. Not going to happen. So
Check the
Anyway.
watch. Check the watch. Check the watch.
Yeah, I checked it not too long ago. It's gone off 17 times since we started tonight. It's a new record, by the way.
Real quick, I want to do a real quick shout out to Tuesday. We're going to be doing our election stream. It's going to be a long one. Chris has been working the phones, working the emails, working the text messages. We have an amazing lineup of guests for you guys, some old favorites and some surprise guests. It's going to be awesome. We're going to be starting at our normal time on here, but an hour earlier, I'm going to post a link for all of our channels, and you'll see it going out. The Righteous Savages podcast channel, we're going to do a pregame. I'm going to do a couple of giveaways on that for the people that subscribe and jump on there. You get some merch, that kind of stuff that we're going to give away, and we'll mail out to you guys, along with, cover your ears, Craig, some Righteous Savages coffee. So it's good coffee, but also support Craig too. We don't actually roast our own. I have a friend that roasts ours, so Craig roasts his own coffee. So, but we're going to be doing some giveaways. We're going to be doing some fun things to kind of kick the night off. I think I'm going to have several of our guys do what they think their election map's going to be, and what it's going to look like at the end of everything as the dust settles. Don't forget to jump over there on the YouTube channel after we get off of here and subscribe to the channel. If you are a subscriber, you're entered into the drawings, the giveaways we're going to do. And we're really excited about that night. It's going to be a long one and a marathon. I'm sure me and Chris are going to be exhausted at the end of the night, and may have to get up early the next day and do an emergency stream.
Listen. You're going to be exhausted because you're drinking Righteous Savages coffee. I won't, because I'll be drinking Stay Brewed.
There we go. A little dig.
There we go.
By the way, Craig, I do need to get you to get some of your coffee sent to me. So at some point, I'm a coffee connoisseur.
After you just promoted somebody else's coffee, you're asking him for coffee. Man, nuts on this guy.
If it's good coffee, it's good coffee.
Look, you're
All
gonna
right.
convert it, man. All right.
All right, Mike, hit us with the conflict of question, and we'll wrap this thing up.
Real quick, has anybody pulled the election night or the election day bingo card yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
We got to find an election day bingo card, and we got to distribute that thing, man. If anybody out there in the audience has found a good election day bingo card, send it to us. We'll push that thing back out to everybody. We'll talk about it over the night and see who gets bingo on that thing, man, because we got to have the election night bingo card.
Fair enough.
All right, Chris, I sent you a couple of pictures.
I'm just looking for them right now.
Yeah.
God bless Peanut.
Bless Peanut.
Because let's face it, we need to cue the Sarah McLachlan Arms of the Angel, right? And let's all have a moment for Peanut and Fred in memoriam. Pull up the picture
And Harambe.
And pull up the picture of Peanut, Fred, and Harambe that I sent you.
I will.
Because Peanut and Fred are in a better place right now, guys. They're with Harambe.
They are. Friggin' these bureaucrats are unbelievable that did this. All right, so we will start with that one first. Give me a second. I didn't realize you sent them to me earlier.
Because you never look at your messages while we're on.
Well, I got one eye. What do you expect me to do? I look at one thing at a time.
Yeah.
All right. There's your first one.
Yeah. Okay. Moment of silence. Moment of silence. All right.
We are the world.
Now let's throw out that scumbag that dimed him out and got him killed. There, the next one up. It shows her. There she is. Shame. 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 Ring the bell. Ring it.
Wow, she looks just like that's a definition of a Karen right there.
Yep. Well, she doesn't have the Karen hair, but I'm sure she has at one time.
She got the crazy.
Would anybody like her address?
Let's play nice. Let's play nice on that one. Justice for Peanut and Fred.
Amen to that.
All right. I feel a little bit better now, guys.
Squirrel lives matter. Squirrel lives matter. Squirrel lives matter.
It's the
There you
Piney
go.
Kong.
All right. let her rip.
Okay. All right, folks. Let's wrap this thing up with a conflicted question of the night. So, again, we want to hear from all of you in the comments section. I'll tell you what, I was pretty lackadaisical last night. I didn't hear a whole lot. I didn't see a whole lot. So, especially on the YouTube side, you're all slacking. All right. Let's see. Conflicted question. What do you think will happen to the world if Kamala Harris is elected president, and why? Ready? Go.
Let me see, John. You got the short stick this time. You get to go first.
Can you repeat that? Because I was actually answering a Chris text message.
What do you? Okay, again for the nosebleed seats.
Yep.
What do you think will happen to the world if Kamala Harris is elected president? Why?
We're going to continue to descend down this path of never-ending wars in different places. You know, my sons will be recruited to serve in these militaries that are going to go into these places so that the wealthy elites can continue to enrich themselves. Our economy is going to further tank, and inflation is going to go rampant. We're going to see influx after influx of illegal aliens, because the ultimate goal is to turn America and destroy it from the inside, because there is no way to destroy America from the outside. It's practically impossible. It has to come from within. The calls are coming from inside the house. They're going to continue. They will give amnesty to every one of these illegal immigrants that have come in to the borders the last 4 years, and there is their permanent voting block to never lose an election again. They will strategically place them in swing states so that they don't have to worry about winning by a couple of thousand votes. They'll be winning those elections by hundreds of thousands of votes, and there'll be no way to undo it. And basically all the worst parts of the Bible.
I'll go second because I got a really short answer. It will result in a civil war. If they install her like they installed Joe Biden, we're not advocating it, but I can tell you that there are people in the circles that we know that will not stand for this. And I don't know what civil war looks like in 2025. It won't look anything like, the 1860s, but there will be bloodshed. There will be hell to pay if they install Kamala. That's my answer. Craig, do you want to take a swing at it?
Yeah, I agree with John. I agree with you. I'm not going along with it. I'm not reconciling or going along with these people. We're already in a civil war. It's maybe by proxy. It's these are people that lack integrity. They have infiltrated our government. I'm not complying with any of it that looks with any of the communist agendas they're trying to push out. We're not doing it. And I think, there was in the last Civil War, one aspect of that, which is interesting, is that the North began a boycott of the South and their goods, right? And so there was economic warfare going on before the kinetic fight actually started, right? And I think we look at the places that the blue areas that run the country for the rest of the red areas of the state, right? Where these blue people get their food from. So I think we can get creative on our side to not go along with this, and to not keep feeding them, and show them where the real power is.
Sounds good. That works. S2.
Well, come on. Everybody knows food comes from the grocery store. Come on.
That's right. That's how
they make the meat in the back, right?
Right.
So I'm assuming by saying that you've seen the video where it may have been Charlie Kirk or it may have been Sheldon Crowder walked around a campus asking, these kids what happens if, they get rid of all the farting cows and shut down all the farmers. And the one's like, they all said something ridiculous, but the ones like, well, just go to McDonald's or wherever. And another person said, well, just go to the grocery store like we always do. That's where the food comes from, right? So
see, this is where I know that I'll be the one that survives past all of those people, because they'll be dead in a week when everything falls apart.
I wanted to show our wallpaper for tonight, just in case nobody saw it in the studio when we were flicking through stuff. But S2, you're up. What happens if Kamala gets installed?
Well, I think we start to see balkanization occur. I think we start to see dissidents being rounded up, aka us and all of the people that think like us. I think you will start to see agricultural fields burn. I think you will see people being escorted to prison camps where they will be executed. Basically, all of the worst things that could happen in a pre-communist country, and then the aftermath of a post-Cold War communist country. Those are the things I see coming.
Not a pretty picture at all, for sure.
Basically, the worst parts of the Bible.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. I want to be one of the 144,000. Appreciate it.
There you go. Mike, looks like you got cleanup here.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and quote over here on Rumble 808285 SRJ. I'm going to paraphrase what he said. The survival dispatch team and I will be hunted down. And he's probably not wrong. We're all going to camps.
Yeah.
But, you know, the cool part is that's where all the fun people are going to be.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, I mean, we're not too far off there, guys. You know, it's gonna, if it goes, we've discussed it plenty of times before. If we wind up in that kind of a situation, it's not going to be lines of blue and gray. It will 100% be very similar to the Balkan Wars. And it is all nasty all the time.
imagine having to fight your neighbors to live.
Yeah. That, you know, funny thing on that topic, by the way, I mentioned that there are 3 homes in the entire subdivision here who had Harris wall signs. 2 of them were taken down in the past couple of days, which I thought was kind of interesting. And we haven't had any
Maybe you
storm.
talked him into it. Maybe you talked him into it.
Highly doubtful, but one can always think about
Hell,
that.
who knows?
All right. We will be back tomorrow night, the usual time, 7 p.m. Eastern. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And God bless America.
Send us that bingo card.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members. Unlimited defense budgets, unmatched legal expertise. Carry the same level of support police officers have. Carry CCW Safe, the highest caliber.